They called her the Invisible Girl. For 5 years, Kira Valen scrubbed bloodstains from the training mats of the Duskfall pack, swallowing her screams every time her wolf clawed at the cage inside her chest. She wasn't wolfless. She was something far more dangerous. Something ancient. Something hunted. Her mother's dying words had been a command. Hide it. Hide it until your last breath, or they will come for you. So Kira hid. She starved her wolf. She let them call her broken. She let the Alpha's son treat her like dirt beneath his boots. But secrets have expiration dates. And when Alpha Kaelin Hargrave drags her before the entire Blood Moon ceremony to humiliate her one final time, he doesn't just shatter her mask. He awakens the beast she's been suffocating for half a decade. The white wolf is done hiding. And the Alpha King is watching. The scent of iron and wolfsbane clung to Kira's skin like a second layer of shame. She knelt on the cold stone floor of the Duskfall Pack's training hall, wringing pink water from a rag into a wooden bucket. The bloodstains from this morning's sparring sessions had dried into the cracks between the flagstones, stubborn and dark. Her knuckles were raw from scrubbing. 23 years old. 5 years of this. 5 years of silence. You missed a spot, ghost girl. The voice slithered down Kira's spine like a blade dipped in honey. She didn't need to look up. She knew the click of those heels, the suffocating cloud of jasmine perfume, and the particular cruelty that accompanied Rowena Ashford wherever she walked. Rowena was the beta's only daughter, a statuesque redhead with a smile that could curdle milk. She stood over Kira now, arms crossed, flanked by 2 Omega girls who giggled on command. I said. Rowena pressed her stiletto heel onto the back of Kira's hand, grinding slowly. You missed a spot. Pain flared up Kira's wrist. She bit her tongue so hard she tasted copper. Inside her chest, something stirred. A growl, a warning. Down, Kira commanded silently. Stay down. The presence retreated, but barely. It was getting harder. Every month, every week, the wolf fought the cage with more ferocity. Kira could feel her pacing, snarling, starving. Apologies, Beta Rowena. Kira kept her voice flat, dead. I'll clean it again. Rowena lifted her heel, examining the crescent-shaped indentation she'd left on Kira's skin. See that you do. The Alpha King arrives tonight for the Blood Moon ceremony. If he sees filth in this hall, I'll tell Kaelin it was your negligence. She leaned down, her breath hot against Kira's ear. And we both know how much Kaelin enjoys punishing you. The other Omegas snickered. Rowena straightened, flipping her copper hair over her shoulder, and sauntered out. Kira exhaled slowly, counting to 10. Her hand throbbed. The wolf inside her howled with rage, throwing herself against the mental bars Kira had constructed years ago. Let me out. Let me tear her throat. No. Kira squeezed her, eyes shut. You know why we can't. The wolf whimpered, retreating into the shadows of Kira's mind. But the resentment lingered, a constant pressure behind Kira's ribs. She returned to scrubbing, her movements mechanical. The Duskfall Pack had been her prison since she was 18. Before that, she'd lived in the wilderness with her mother, Ilara, a rogue wolf who had fled her birth pack under mysterious circumstances. Kira had never known her father. Her mother refused to speak of him, except to say that his bloodline was a death sentence. You carry something ancient, Ilara had whispered on her deathbed, her body broken by the hunters who had finally tracked them down. A white wolf, the last of the lunar primes. If anyone discovers what you are, they will either cage you or kill you. Hide it, Kira. Suppress it. Let them think you are nothing. So Kira had stumbled into Duskfall territory, half-starved, pretending to be a wolfless Omega seeking sanctuary. The old Alpha, Kaelin's father, had granted her refuge out of obligation to pack law. When he died 2 years later, his son inherited the title and made Kira's life a living nightmare. Kaelin Hargrave. Just thinking his name made Kira's stomach twist with complicated knots. He was beautiful in the way that storms were beautiful. Dark hair, eyes like shattered ice, a jawline sharp enough to cut glass. He was also arrogant, sadistic, and utterly convinced of his own superiority. He had never touched her himself. He didn't need to. He simply looked the other way when Rowena and her cronies tormented her, when the pack warriors accidentally knocked her down in hallways, when the kitchen staff gave her rotting scraps while others feasted. And yet, there was something else. A pull Kira had noticed 3 months ago, a magnetic tug in her chest whenever Kaelin entered a room. Her wolf perked up at his scent, pine and smoke and something darker. It terrified Kira more than the beatings ever could. Mate, her wolf had whispered the first time she'd felt it. Impossible, Kira had snarled back. He's a monster, and we don't exist, remember? We're nothing. But the pull was growing stronger, and tonight, during the blood moon ceremony, every unmated wolf in the territory would be searching for their fated pair. Kira couldn't afford to be found. She dumped the bloody water down the drain and gathered her supplies. The ceremony started in 4 hours. She needed to disappear before then. But as she turned toward the servant's exit, a heavy hand clamped onto her shoulder. Going somewhere, ghost girl? Kira's blood froze. She turned slowly to find Brennan, the pack's head warrior, looming over her. He was a mountain of muscle with a shaved head and a scar that bisected his left eyebrow. He wasn't cruel like Rowena, but he followed orders without question. Beta Rowena wants all Omegas in the Great Hall for setup, Brennan said, his grip firm. No exceptions. Alpha Kaelin's command. I'm not needed, Kira tried, keeping her voice meek. I was assigned to clean the training hall. Reassigned. Brennan's eyes narrowed. You trying to skip out on the blood moon ceremony, runt? Kira's heart hammered. I just thought, I'm wolfless. What use am I at a mating ceremony? Brennan snorted. You're not there to find a mate. You're there to serve drinks and stay out of sight. Move. He released her shoulder and jerked his chin toward the east corridor. Kira had no choice. She followed, her mind racing. The great hall of Duskfall Manor was a cavernous space of dark timber and iron chandeliers. Banners bearing the pack's crest, a silver wolf against a crimson moon, hung from the rafters. Hundreds of candles were being lit by Omega servants, casting flickering shadows across the stone walls. And in the center of it all, on a raised platform draped in black velvet, sat the Alpha's throne. Kira kept her head down as she joined the other servants arranging silver goblets on long oak tables. The air was thick with tension and anticipation. The blood moon ceremony happened once every 3 years. It was the most significant night for unmated wolves, a time when the moon goddess's power was strongest and fate bonds revealed themselves. But this year was different. This year the Alpha King himself was attending. Alaric Vane. Kira had heard the whispers. The king had ruled the Northern Dominion for 15 years, ever since he'd killed his tyrannical father in single combat. He was said to be ruthless, enigmatic, and impossibly powerful. No one had seen him shift in a decade. Some said his wolf was so terrifying that he kept it leashed to avoid slaughtering his own subjects. Others said he was searching for something, or someone. Not me, Kira told herself firmly. He's not here for me. No one knows what I am. But her wolf stirred at the thought of him, curious and alert in a way she hadn't been in years. Stop it, Kira hissed internally. We hide. That's what we do. A commotion near the main entrance drew her attention. Kira glanced up and immediately wished she hadn't. Kaelin Hargrave strode into the great hall like he owned the world, which, in this territory, he did. He wore a tailored black suit that emphasized the breadth of his shoulders, his dark hair swept back from his angular face, Rowena clung to his arm, resplendent in a crimson gown that matched the banners overhead. Kira looked away quickly, but not fast enough. The pull ignited in her chest, hot, insistent, undeniable. Her wolf surged forward, pressing against the mental cage. Mate. He's our mate. Go to him. No. Kira gripped the edge of the table until her knuckles whitened. He's not ours. He'll never be ours. We're invisible, remember? But her body betrayed her. Her skin flushed. Her pulse quickened. A faint tremor ran through her hands. Across the hall, Kalen paused mid-stride. He tilted his head, nostrils flaring. His ice-blue eyes scanned the crowd of servants, searching for something. Don't. Look at me. Don't look at me. Don't. His gaze landed on her. For one horrifying second, their eyes locked. Kira saw confusion flicker across his features, then something darker. Suspicion. Recognition. No. No, no, no. Kira dropped her gaze and grabbed a tray of empty goblets, forcing herself to move toward the kitchens. She could feel his stare burning into her back like a brand. He doesn't know, she told herself desperately. He can't know. The bond isn't complete. I haven't shifted. He probably thinks I'm just nervous. But her wolf was growling now, low and continuous, pacing the cage with increasing agitation. 5 years of suppression, 5 years of starvation. The beast was waking up, and she was hungry. Kira slipped into the kitchen corridor and pressed her back against the cold stone wall, gasping for breath. She couldn't do this. She couldn't be in the same room as him. The pull was too strong. Her control was crumbling. 3 more hours, she whispered to herself. Survive 3 more hours, then disappear. Leave the territory. Run. But even as she said it, she knew it was a fantasy. The blood moon would rise. The ceremony would begin. And Kaelin Hargrave had just caught her scent. The great hall filled with wolves. They arrived in waves, delegations from allied packs, visiting nobles dressed in silk and velvet, unmated wolves with hungry eyes searching the crowd for their destined pairs. The air grew thick with competing scents: cedar, amber, rose, musk. Pheromones swirled like invisible currents, making even the servants lightheaded. Kira worked mechanically, refilling wine goblets and clearing empty plates. She had chosen a position near the back wall, as far from the Alpha's platform as possible. Kaelin sat on his throne, Rowena standing beside him like a satisfied cat awaiting her crown. He hadn't looked in Kira's direction again. Maybe she'd imagined it. Maybe the pull was one-sided. Please, she begged silently, let it be one-sided. A trumpet blast silenced the hall. Presenting His Majesty, Alpha King Alaric Vane of the Northern Dominion. The crowd parted like water before a blade. Kira looked up and stopped breathing. Alaric Vane was nothing like she'd imagined. She had expected a grizzled warlord, scarred and savage. Instead, the man who strode through the parted crowd moved with the lethal grace of a predator who had never known fear. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with jet-black hair that fell past his collar and a face carved from shadow and moonlight. His eyes were the color of burnished gold, sharp and ancient, holding secrets older than the pack itself. He wore no crown. He didn't need one. Power radiated from him like heat from a forge. Kira's wolf went utterly still, not with fear, with recognition. What is he? Kira thought, her mouth dry. The king ascended the platform and Kaelin rose to greet him with a bow that was just shallow enough to border on disrespect. Your Majesty, the Duskfall pack is honored by your presence. Alaric's amber gaze swept over Kaelin with cool disinterest. I'm not here for pleasantries, Alpha Hargrave. The blood moon reveals truths. I intend to witness them. Something flickered in Kaelin's expression. Annoyance. Fear. Both? Of course, Kaelin said smoothly. The ceremony will begin shortly. The king said nothing. He simply turned and surveyed the hall with those unsettling eyes, as if he were cataloging every soul present. For a terrifying moment, his gaze passed over Kira's corner of the room. She felt it like a physical touch, a brush of something ancient and immense against her consciousness. Her wolf snapped to attention, pressing against the cage with renewed urgency. He feels it, her wolf breathed. He feels us. Impossible. Kira forced herself to look away, focusing intently on the wine goblet in her hands. We're suppressed. We're nothing. He can't. The ceremony horn sounded. Elder Miriam, the pack's oldest wolf and keeper of traditions, hobbled to the center of the hall. Her voice, though aged, carried clearly through the space. On this blood moon, we call upon the goddess to reveal the bonds she has woven. Let those who are fated step forward. Let the moon show us our truths. The chandeliers dimmed. Through the skylights above, crimson moonlight flooded the hall, bathing everything in an otherworldly red glow. Kira felt the moon's power like a fist closing around her lungs. Her wolf howled inside her, thrashing against the cage. The suppression that had held for 5 years began to crack. Kira gasped, doubling over slightly, her hand pressed to her chest. Not now. Not here. Please. You! The voice cut through her panic like a blade. Kira looked up. Kalen Hargrave was descending from the platform, his eyes fixed on her with laser intensity. The crowd murmured, confused. Alpha? Rowena called, her voice sharp with alarm. Where are you going? Kalen didn't answer. He stalked toward Kira like a wolf cornering prey, his nostrils flaring, his pupils blown wide. It's you, he breathed, stopping 3 feet away. The pull, the scent. It's been you this whole time. The hall went silent. Every eye turned to Kira, the invisible servant, the ghost girl, the wolfless Omega who scrubbed their floors. Kalen's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist, yanking her forward. The contact sent electricity arcing through Kira's veins. Her wolf roared, slamming against the mental bars with enough force to make Kira's vision blur. Mate, Kalen whispered, the word half accusation, half disbelief. You're my mate. The crowd erupted. Shocked gasps, scandalized whispers, Rowena's shriek of fury. But Kira barely heard them. She was fighting a war inside her own body. The moon's power was flooding her, awakening the beast she'd starved for 5 years. Her bones ached, her skin burned. Let go, she managed through gritted teeth. Kalen, you need to let go of me. You've been hiding, Kalen hissed, his grip tightening. Right, under my nose. What are you? On the platform, Alaric Vane rose slowly from his seat. His golden eyes were fixed on the scene below with an intensity that made the air crackle. Kira's control shattered. A pulse of white light exploded from her body, throwing Kalen backward. He crashed into a table, sending goblets and candelabras scattering. Screams erupted from the crowd. Kira fell to her knees, clutching her skull as 5 years of suppression unraveled in seconds. Her spine arched. Her bones began to crack and reform. No, she sobbed. Not like this. Not here. But the wolf was done listening. The last thing Kira saw before the shift consumed her was Alaric Vane, standing at the edge of the platform, his burnished gold eyes blazing with something that looked almost like triumph. Then the white wolf tore free, and the great hall erupted into chaos. The transformation wasn't complete. Kira hung suspended between human and wolf, her body contorting on the marble floor. White fur rippled across her skin in patches, then receded. Her fingers elongated into claws, then snapped back. She was fighting it. Fighting the shift with every shred of willpower she had left. 5 years of suppression didn't surrender easily. What the hell is happening? Someone screamed. She's shifting! The wolfless Omega is shifting! The crowd scrambled backward, overturning tables, crushing against walls. But Kalen Hargrave didn't retreat. He picked himself up from the wreckage of the banquet table, wine dripping from his suit, his face twisted with rage and disbelief. "You lied to me." His voice was barely human, his own wolf surging beneath the surface. "You've had a wolf this entire time. You made me look like a fool." Kira couldn't respond. She was on all fours, shaking violently, sweat and tears streaming down her face. Her wolf was clawing at the final barriers, howling for release. "Let me out. They'll kill us if you don't let me out." "If I let you out, they'll kill us anyway," Kira thought desperately. "The hunters. The pure flames. They'll find us." "Look at me." Kaylin grabbed a fistful of her hair and yanked her head up. The crowd gasped at the brutality, but no one intervened. "You're my mate. You belong to me. And you've been lying about what you are?" Through the haze of pain, Kira saw Rowena pushing through the crowd, her face pale with fury. "She's not your mate," Rowena spat. "She's a fraud, a rogue. She probably used dark magic to fake the bond." "The bond is real," Elder Miriam said quietly, her milky eyes fixed on Kira with something like wonder. "I can see the thread. It's genuine. But the girl is something else entirely." "I don't care what she is." Kaylin released Kira's hair and she collapsed forward, barely catching herself. "I refuse her." The words landed like a physical blow. Kira's wolf went silent. The entire hall went silent. "Alpha," Elder Miriam warned, "rejecting a fated mate during the blood moon." "I said I refuse her." Kalen's voice boomed through the hall, amplified by his alpha authority. He turned to face the watching crowd, his spine rigid with pride. "Look at her, a servant, a liar, a creature who hid her nature to infiltrate my pack. The goddess may have bound us, but I am an alpha of the Duskfall bloodline. I will not be shackled to deception." He looked down at Kira, and his eyes held nothing but contempt. "I, Kaelin Hargrave, alpha of the Duskfall pack, reject you as my mate and my Luna. You are nothing to me. You were always nothing." The rejection hit Kira like a silver blade through the heart. She screamed, not from the shift, from the severing. The bond that had barely formed was being ripped apart, torn like tissue paper. She felt it in her soul, a gaping wound where warmth should have been. "Accept it," Kaelin commanded coldly. "Complete the severance, and I'll let you leave with your life." Kira looked up at him through tear-blurred eyes. This was the man the goddess had chosen for her. This cruel, vain, heartless creature who had watched her suffer for 5 years and never once intervened. "I accept," she whispered, the words like ash on her tongue. "I accept your rejection." The bond snapped. Kira felt it. A violent severance that left her gasping, hollow, broken. But something else happened in that moment. Something the rejection had not accounted for. The pain of the severance merged with the pain of the suppression. And both chains shattered simultaneously. "Now get out," Kaelin said, turning his back on her. "Brennan, escort this rogue to the border. If she resists, put her down." Brennan stepped forward, reaching for Kira's arm. He never made contact. A pulse of blinding white light erupted from Kira's body, brighter than before, brighter than the blood moon itself. It threw Brennan across the hall like a rag doll. It sent Kaelin stumbling into Rowena. It shattered every window in the great hall simultaneously. And in the center of the chaos, Kira Valen stopped fighting. The shift was no longer a battle. It was a surrender. Kira's body exploded into motion, bones cracked and reformed with sickening speed, her spine elongated, her skull reshaped. White fur, pure, luminous, impossible, burst through her skin like moonlight given form. She grew, and grew, and grew. When the transformation completed, the creature standing in the ruins of the Great Hall was not a wolf. It was a legend. The white wolf stood 7 feet tall at the shoulder, dwarfing every alpha in the room. Her fur shimmered like fresh snow under starlight, each strand seemingly lit from within. Her eyes, no longer violet but blazing silver, swept across the terrified crowd with ancient, terrible intelligence. This was not a beast born of common bloodlines. This was a lunar prime, the last of her kind. Kalen stumbled backward, his face drained of all color. That's impossible. The lunar primes are extinct. The white wolf turned her head toward him. A growl rumbled from her chest. So deep, so powerful, it cracked the marble floor beneath her paws. The sound wasn't just heard, it was felt, vibrating in the bones of every wolf present. Omegas dropped to their knees, whimpering. Betas collapsed, unable to withstand the pressure. Even the alphas in attendance staggered, their wolves howling in submission. Kalen fought it. His pride, his arrogance, refused to let him kneel. But his legs were shaking. Sweat poured down his temples. His wolf was cowering inside him, recognizing a predator so far above them that resistance was suicide. Kalen. Rowena's voice was a terrified whisper. Kalen, do something. He couldn't. He was frozen, staring at the goddess of destruction he had just rejected and banished. The white wolf took a step toward him. The crowd screamed. People fled toward the exits, trampling each other in their desperation to escape. But the wolf didn't attack. She stopped inches from Kalen, her silver eyes boring into his soul. She lowered her head until her muzzle was level with his face. You called me nothing. The voice wasn't spoken aloud. It resonated directly in Kalen's mind, and in the minds of everyone present. A psychic projection so powerful it bypassed all mental defenses. Remember this moment, little Alpha. Remember what nothing looks like. She opened her jaws and released a roar. It wasn't sound. It was force. Pure, concentrated power that blasted outward like a shockwave. It threw Kalen off his feet. It collapsed the iron chandeliers. It tore the banners from the walls. When the echoes faded, the great hall was silent. The white wolf stood alone in the devastation, chest heaving, silver eyes still burning. The rage was fading, replaced by exhaustion and grief. She had revealed herself. She had broken her mother's dying command. There was no going back. A slow clapping sound broke the silence. The white wolf spun, hackles raised, fangs bared. On the elevated platform, untouched by the chaos, stood Alaric Vane. He hadn't fled. He hadn't fallen. He had simply watched the entire display with those unreadable amber eyes. And now he was descending the steps, walking directly toward the most dangerous creature in the room, applauding as if he had just witnessed a beautiful performance. Magnificent, the Alpha King said softly. Absolutely magnificent. The white wolf growled, crouching into an attack stance. But Alaric didn't stop. He walked toward her with measured calm, hands now lowered to his sides, palms open, a gesture of peace among wolves. Easy, he murmured, his voice low and resonant. I'm not your enemy, Lunar Prime. I've been searching for you for a very long time. Stay back. Kira's psychic voice trembled with exhaustion and warning. I don't know you. No, Alaric agreed, stopping 10 feet away. But you know what I am. Your wolf recognizes it, even if your human mind doesn't. The white wolf hesitated. He was right. Something deep in her ancient instincts was responding to him, not with fear or submission, but with recognition. Like finding a star you'd been navigating by your entire life. What are you? She projected. Alaric's eyes flickered with something almost like amusement. A conversation for when you're not standing in the ruins of a pack hall you just demolished. He glanced around at the destruction, shattered windows, collapsed chandeliers, cowering wolves. Impressive, by the way. You've been suppressed for years, and this is your first full shift? Most primes would have leveled the entire estate. Behind them, Kalen was struggling to his feet, blood trickling from a gash on his forehead. She's a monster, he spat. She attacked my pack. She defended herself. Alaric's voice didn't rise, but it cut through Kalen's words like a razor. After you rejected her, after you ordered her execution, or did you think the phrase "put her down" had another meaning, Alpha Hargrave? Kalen's mouth opened, closed. He had no defense. Alaric turned back to the White Wolf, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. You're exhausted. The shift is draining you. You need to change back before you collapse. I don't know if I can. The admission was laced with fear. I don't know how to control it. Yes, you do. Alaric took another step closer, slowly, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. The wolf is you. You are the wolf. You've been treating her like a prisoner for 5 years, but she's not your enemy. She's your other half. Stop fighting, start trusting. The White Wolf trembled. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to fight, to trust no one. But she was so tired, so impossibly tired. She closed her silver eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered to the beast inside her. I'm sorry I caged you. I'm sorry I starved you. I was afraid. The wolf's response wasn't words. It was warmth. Forgiveness. A sense of wholeness that Kira had never known she was missing. The shift reversed. It was gentler this time. The fur receded like morning mist. The bones reformed with aching slowness. When it was over, Kira collapsed to her knees, human again, naked and trembling in the center of the ruined hall. Alaric was already moving. He shrugged off his long black coat and swept it around her shoulders before the gawking crowd could see more than a glimpse of pale skin. The fabric was warm, heavy, and smelled of cedar and winter storms. I have you, he said quietly, lifting her into his arms as if she weighed nothing. You're safe now. Why? Kira's voice was barely a whisper. Why are you helping me? Alaric looked down at her, and for a moment, the mask of the cold king slipped. Because I made a promise to your mother, he said, a very long time ago. Before Kira could process those words, Kalen's voice rang out behind them. You can't take her. The Duskfall Alpha was on his feet, swaying but defiant. She's a member of my pack. She attacked my people. By law she must face judgment here. Alaric paused at the shattered doorway. He didn't turn around. She was a member of your pack, the king corrected. Then you banished her. The moment those words left your mouth, she became a rogue. And rogues discovered by the crown fall under royal jurisdiction. That's not... Furthermore, now Alaric did turn, and his amber eyes had lost all warmth. She is a lunar prime, the last of a bloodline that predates your pathetic pack by 3,000 years. By the ancient laws that existed before your great-grandfather was a pup, she outranks you. She outranks every alpha in this room. He let that settle over the crowd. The only reason you're still breathing, Kalen Hargrave, is because I'm in a merciful mood. But if you speak her name again, if you so much as look in her direction again, I will consider it a declaration of war against the crown. Silence. Alaric adjusted Kira in his arms and walked out into the night. His royal guard materialized from the shadows, 12 warriors in black tactical gear, moving with predatory synchronization. They formed a protective perimeter around their king and his cargo. Where are we going? Kira murmured, her consciousness fading. Home, Alaric said. I'm taking you home. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was the blood moon overhead, no longer crimson but pure, brilliant white, as if the goddess herself was smiling. Kira woke to the scent of pine and wood smoke. She was lying in a bed larger than her entire servants' quarters back in Duskfall. The sheets were silk, cool against her skin. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked a snow-capped mountain range she didn't recognize. She sat up too quickly. Pain lanced through her muscles, the aftermath of a shift her body had never been trained for. Slowly. The deep voice came from a leather armchair by the fireplace. Alaric Vane sat with one ankle crossed over his knee, a leather-bound book open in his hands. He looked different in the daylight, less like a king and more like a man, though the power radiating from him was impossible to ignore. Your body is still recovering. First shifts are traumatic enough. One that breaks through 5 years of suppression? You're lucky to be alive. Kira pulled the blankets up to her chin, suddenly aware that she was wearing a silk nightgown she didn't recognize. Where am I? Ironhaven Citadel, the seat of the Northern Crown. Alaric closed his book and set it aside. You've been unconscious for 2 days. 2 days. Kira's mind raced through everything that had happened. The ceremony, the rejection, the shift, the destruction. Kaelin's face, pale with terror, as she stood over him. The pack, she whispered. Did I hurt anyone? A few broken bones. Wounded pride. Nothing fatal. Alaric's amber gaze studied her with unsettling intensity. You showed remarkable restraint for a wolf emerging from half a decade of starvation. Most would have slaughtered everyone in that hall. I wanted to. The admission slipped out before Kira could stop it. My wolf wanted blood. I barely held her back. And yet you did. Alaric rose from his chair, moving to a sideboard where a crystal decanter sat beside 2 glasses. He poured amber liquid into both and brought one to her. That control is rare. It's also why you're still alive. Kira took the glass but didn't drink. You said something, before I passed out. You said you made a promise to my mother. Alaric was quiet for a long moment. He walked to the window, staring out at the mountains, his broad shoulders silhouetted against the light. Alara Valen, he said finally. That was her name before she went into hiding, before she became a rogue. Kira's heart stuttered. You knew her? I loved her. The words hung in the air like smoke. Alaric turned to face her, and for the first time, Kira saw something vulnerable beneath the mask of the king. We were young. I was the crown prince, not yet burdened with the throne. She was a lunar prime, the daughter of the last recognized prime bloodline. Our families arranged a betrothal, but it was more than politics. Ilara was... He paused, searching for words. She was fire and moonlight, fierce, stubborn, utterly incapable of following rules she deemed unjust. Kira's throat tightened. That sounded exactly like the mother she remembered. What happened? The pure flames happened. Alaric's voice hardened. A fanatical cult that believes the lunar primes are abominations, wolves who carry too much of the goddess's power, who threaten the natural hierarchy. They've been hunting primes for centuries. When they discovered Ilara's bloodline, they came for her. He set his glass down with more force than necessary. Before we could wed, the cult attacked. Ilara's family was slaughtered. She barely escaped, but not alone. She had fallen in love with someone else, a guardian from her household. Tavren, one of the last male primes. His jaw tightened. She was carrying his child when she fled. Kira's blood turned to ice. The child, she breathed. You mean, you, Kira. Alaric's eyes locked onto hers. Your father died protecting Ilara's escape. She never stopped running after that. She knew that if the pure flames discovered the last prime heir, they would never stop hunting. So she disappeared. She raised you in hiding. She taught you to suppress your wolf so thoroughly that even I couldn't find you. The room spun. Kira gripped the bedsheets, trying to anchor herself. My mother never told me about my real father. She was protecting you. Tavren's bloodline was pure, purer than any prime in 1,000 years. That makes you the most powerful wolf born in 3 millennia. Alaric's expression softened. I never stopped searching for Alara. I never stopped loving her. When I finally tracked rumors of a white wolf shifting at the blood moon ceremony, I knew. I knew she had succeeded in hiding you. And I swore I would honor the promise I made to her memory. What promise? To protect her daughter, no matter the cost. Kira set the glass aside and pushed back the covers, swinging her legs over the edge of the bed. Her muscles screamed in protest, but she forced herself to stand. And now? She asked. The pure flames. They'll know about me now. Every wolf on the continent saw what I am. Yes. Alaric's expression darkened. They're already mobilizing. My spies report movement in their strongholds. And Kalen, the boy is too arrogant to accept defeat. He's petitioning the Elder Council, claiming you were his mate first, that the rejection was made under duress. I don't belong to anyone. No. A ghost of a smile crossed Alaric's face. You don't. But the old laws are complicated, and Kalen knows how to manipulate them. Kira met his gaze without flinching. Then teach me. Teach me how to fight, how to control my wolf, how to destroy anyone who tries to cage me again. Alaric studied her for a long moment, this fierce woman who had her mother's stubborn jaw and a power that could reshape the world. It won't be easy, he warned. I won't coddle you. I scrubbed floors for 5 years while wolves spat on me. I don't need coddling. Kira's eyes flickered silver. I need power. Alaric extended his hand. Then let's begin. 3 weeks transformed Kira Valen. Under Alaric's brutal tutelage, she learned to shift at will. Not the violent, uncontrolled explosion of the blood moon, but a fluid transition between forms. She learned to fight in both skins, hand-to-hand combat as a human, savage tactics as a wolf. She learned to harness her psychic abilities, projecting commands that could freeze lesser wolves in their tracks. But more than that, she learned to trust her wolf. The beast that had been her prisoner for 5 years became her partner. They ran together through Ironhaven's mountain passes, hunted elk in the frozen valleys, howled at moons both red and white. For the first time in her life, Kira felt whole. She was sparring with Alaric's captain of the guard, a scarred female warrior named Thessaly, when the alarm bells shattered the morning calm. Perimeter breach, Thessaly growled, tossing Kira a blade. Southern gate. They sprinted through the citadel's stone corridors, arriving at the main courtyard to find a scene that made Kira's newly healed heart crack all over again. Kalen Hargrave stood at the gates. He wasn't alone. Behind him stretched a delegation of 50 wolves, warriors, council members, and at the center, 5 robed figures Kira recognized from her years in Duskfall. The Elder Council. Alaric emerged from the citadel, his presence parting the crowd like a blade through silk. He stopped beside Kira, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. You're trespassing, Hargrave. I'm exercising my legal rights. Kalen's ice-blue eyes found Kira, and something hungry flickered in their depths. He looked different, haggard dark circles under his eyes, a feverish intensity to his movements. The broken mate bond was poisoning him. She's mine, Alaric. The goddess chose her for me. And you rejected her, publicly, cruelly. Those words cannot be unsaid. But they can be challenged. One of the elders stepped forward, a wizened male with a long white beard and rheumy eyes. Elder Corvinus, he introduced himself with a shallow bow. The council has reviewed Alpha Hargrave's petition. The rejection occurred before the female's first shift. By ancient precedent, a bond cannot be fully severed if one party's wolf was not present to witness the severance. Kira felt her wolf bristle. They're trying to bind us to him through loopholes. They can try, she responded grimly. Furthermore, Corvinus continued, the female in question was a registered member of the Duskfall Pack. Alpha Hargrave has the right to reclaim pack members who were removed without proper procedure. Removed? Alaric's voice dropped to a dangerous register. He banished her. He ordered her killed. Allegations that Alpha Hargrave denies. Corvinus spread his hands. The council proposes a compromise, a trial of bonds. If the female can defeat Alpha Hargrave in single combat, she is free. If she loses, she returns to Duskfall as his mate. Absolutely not. Alaric stepped forward, his aura flaring. I'll tear out his throat myself before... I accept. Both Alaric and Kaelin turned to stare at Kira. She stepped forward, her white hair, grown longer and wilder in the past weeks, streaming behind her in the mountain wind. No champions, she said, her voice carrying across the courtyard. No proxies. Kaelin wants to claim me? He can try to take me himself. Kaelin's smile was predatory. You don't know what you're agreeing to, little Omega. I've been training since I could walk. You've had your wolf for less than a month. Then it should be an easy victory for you. Kira smiled back, and there was nothing submissive in it. Unless you're afraid. His smile vanished. Tomorrow at dawn, Elder Corvinus declared, clearly eager to avoid further escalation. The trial will take place in the Valley of Echoes, neutral ground. As the delegation retreated, Alaric gripped Kira's arm. What are you doing? You're not ready for this. I'm ready. Kira gently removed his hand. This isn't just about me, Alaric. It's about every Omega who's ever been told their property. Every wolf who's been broken by someone stronger. She looked toward the gates where Kaelin's silhouette was disappearing. He needs to learn that rejection has consequences, and I need to be the one who teaches him. Alaric was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. Then we train through the night, and tomorrow, you make him bleed. The Valley of Echoes lived up to its name. Surrounded by sheer cliff faces on three sides, the ancient arena amplified every sound, every footstep, every breath, every heartbeat. Thousands of wolves lined the ridges above, having traveled from territories across the continent to witness the trial. Kira stood at the northern end, wearing simple black combat leathers, no weapons, no armor, just her and her wolf. Across the snow-covered ground, Kaelin waited. He'd stripped to the waist, displaying the muscled physique of an alpha born and bred for combat. His wolves had painted ritual markings across his chest, symbols meant to invoke the goddess's favor. Elder Corvinus stood on a raised platform between them. The rules are absolute. No outside interference, no weapons. Shift is permitted. The trial ends when one party submits, loses consciousness, or dies. He raised a withered hand. Begin. Kaelin didn't waste time. He launched himself across the arena, shifting mid-leap. His black wolf was formidable, easily 6 feet at the shoulder, built like a battering ram. He crashed toward Kira with the force of an avalanche. She didn't shift. At the last possible second, she sidestepped. Kaelin's wolf sailed past her, claws raking empty air. Before he could turn, she drove her elbow into his flank with bone-cracking force. He yelped, skidding across the snow. The crowd murmured. That blow should have shattered a human's arm. Instead, Kira stood unharmed, rolling her shoulder casually. You think I'm still the weak Omega you tormented? She projected into his mind. You think I'm still afraid of you? Kaelin snarled and charged again. This time, she met him head-on. Her shift was instantaneous. One moment human, the next a blur of white light. The white wolf that emerged wasn't just larger than Kaelin's form. She was faster, stronger. Every movement fluid and precise. They clashed in a tornado of fur and fangs. Kaelin fought with raw aggression, trying to overwhelm her with brute strength. But Kira had spent 3 weeks learning to fight smart. She used his momentum against him, ducking his lunges and countering with surgical strikes. She opened a gash across his shoulder, his ribs, his muzzle. Blood stained the white snow crimson. Submit, she commanded, the psychic force behind the word making his legs buckle. Never. Kaelin's response was laced with desperation. You're mine. The goddess. The goddess doesn't reward cruelty. She slammed into him, knocking him onto his back, her paw pinning his throat. Her jaws hovered inches from his exposed belly. The killing position. On the ridgeline, a flash of movement caught her peripheral vision. Rowena. The beta female had smuggled a crossbow into the arena. Even now she was raising it, aiming at Kira's exposed flank. Time slowed. Kira couldn't dodge without releasing Kaelin. She couldn't shield herself without... The bolt flew. A black blur intercepted it. Thessaly, Alaric's captain, had leaped from the crowd, catching the bolt in her shoulder before it could reach Kira. She crashed to the ground with a grunt of pain. Interference! Elder Corvinus shouted. The female violated... The violation came from Duskfall. Alaric's voice thundered from the ridge. He pointed at Rowena, who was already trying to flee. Seize her. Royal guards materialized, dragging the screaming beta into custody. In the chaos, Kaelin tried to twist free. Kira slammed him back down. Don't, she warned. Don't make me kill you, because I will, without hesitation, without mercy, and I'll sleep soundly tonight knowing the world is better for your absence. He went still. For a long moment, their eyes locked. Kira saw the exact moment his pride shattered, the moment he truly understood that she was no longer the ghost girl he'd tormented. She never had been. Submit. This time, he did. Kaelin's wolf went limp beneath her. He turned his head, exposing his throat in the ultimate gesture of surrender. Kira held the position for 3 heartbeats, long enough for every wolf present to witness his humiliation. Then she stepped back and shifted to human form. It's over, she announced, her voice echoing off the cliffs. I claim my freedom. Any who dispute it can face me next. Silence. Then, from the ridgeline, a single howl rose. Alaric, honoring her victory. Others joined. Dozens. Hundreds. Thousands of voices raised in acknowledgement of the white wolf's triumph. Kaelin lay in the bloody snow, broken and alone, as the world celebrated his defeat. The victory feast at Ironhaven lasted through the night. Kira stood on a balcony overlooking the revelry, nursing a glass of honeyed wine. Her body ached from the trial, but it was a good ache, the satisfied exhaustion of a battle won. Footsteps approached behind her. You should be celebrating, Alaric said, joining her at the railing. You just defeated an alpha in single combat, in front of the entire Continental Court. I'm not much for crowds. No, I suppose you wouldn't be. He was quiet for a moment. You fought beautifully today. Your mother would be proud. Kira's chest tightened. I wish she could have seen it. She did. Wherever she is now, she saw. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge over the mountain peaks. Kira became acutely aware of Alaric's presence beside her, the heat of his body, the steady rhythm of his breathing. Something had been building between them since that first night at Ironhaven. She'd told herself it was gratitude, then respect, then the natural bond between a guardian and his ward. But he wasn't really her guardian, was he? Not in the ways that mattered. He was the man who had loved her mother. A king who had saved her life. A wolf who looked at her with something far more complicated than duty. Alaric, she started. I know. His voice was rough. I feel it too. She turned to face him. What is it? I don't know. He met her gaze, and his amber eyes were conflicted. You're not the child I swore to protect. Not anymore. You've become something else entirely. But this pull between us... He shook his head. It's not what I expected. Kira's pulse quickened. What are you saying? Before he could answer, an explosion rocked the citadel. The balcony shuddered. Stone cracked. From somewhere deep in the fortress, screams erupted. Attack! The cry came from the walls. We're under attack! Alaric grabbed Kira's arm, pulling her inside as another explosion detonated, closer this time. Smoke filled the corridors. Guards sprinted past, shouting orders. The pure flames! Thessaly appeared at Alaric's side, her wounded arm bound tight. They've breached the eastern wall. Hundreds of them. They're chanting her name. Kira's blood turned to ice. Her name. They weren't here for Alaric. They weren't here for the kingdom. They were here for her. How did they mobilize so quickly? Alaric demanded. Someone told them. Thessaly's expression was grim. Someone at the trial sent word the moment she won. Kaelin. It had to be. Evacuate the civilians, Alaric commanded. Rally the guard. I'll lead the... No. Kira stepped forward. This is my fight. They're hunting me. They've been hunting my bloodline for generations. She met Alaric's eyes. If I run now, I'll be running forever. It ends tonight. You can't face an army alone. I'm not alone. She smiled and her eyes flickered silver. I have my wolf, and she's been waiting 3,000 years for this. The eastern courtyard was a war zone. Pure flame soldiers poured through the breach in the wall, hundreds of them, clad in white and gold, carrying silver weapons designed to kill wolves. At their center stood a towering figure in ornate armor, a flaming brand held high. High Inquisitor Mordecai, leader of the cult, the man who had hunted lunar primes to extinction. Kira walked through the smoke and chaos, flames reflecting in her silver eyes. Abomination! Mordecai's voice boomed across the courtyard. The goddess's mistake. Today, we cleanse the bloodline forever. The goddess doesn't make mistakes. Kira's voice was calm, almost conversational. But you're about to. Mordecai laughed. You're one wolf. We are legion. One wolf is all I need. She shifted. But this wasn't the white wolf the courtyard had seen before. This was something else. Something that had been sleeping in her blood for millennia, waiting for the moment when it was truly needed. The transformation was blinding. When it cleared, the creature standing in the courtyard defied description. This wasn't her normal white wolf. This was the ascended form, the goddess incarnate that slumbered in prime blood. She was colossal, 10 feet at the shoulder, wreathed in silver light that burned like cold fire. Her eyes weren't just silver anymore. They were twin moons, radiating power that made the air itself tremble. This wasn't a wolf. This was divinity made flesh. Kneel. The command wasn't psychic, it was cosmic. It resonated through every soul in the courtyard, pure flame and royal guard alike. It shook the mountains. It cracked the sky. The soldiers collapsed. Every single one. They hit the ground as if gravity itself had increased tenfold, their weapons clattering uselessly beside them. Only Mordecai remained standing, though sweat poured down his face and his legs shook. Impossible, he gasped. You're just a girl. A runt. The white wolf moved. She crossed the courtyard in a single bound, her jaws closing around Mordecai's armored torso. The blessed steel, meant to kill wolves, crumpled like paper. She shook him once. The sound of snapping bone echoed off the walls. She dropped his body and turned to face the cowering army. Blood dripped from her muzzle, steaming in the cold air. You hunted my kind, she projected, her voice resonating in every mind. You burned my ancestors. You murdered my mother. No more. She opened her jaws and roared. The sound was annihilation. It wasn't just volume, it was force, energy, the wrath of centuries compressed into a single moment. The pure flame soldiers didn't just die, they disintegrated. The divine light consumed them, leaving nothing but ash and armor. When the echoes faded, the courtyard was silent. The white wolf stood alone among the ruins, chest heaving, power slowly receding. The silver light dimmed. Her form shrank. Kira collapsed onto the blood-soaked stones, human again, trembling with exhaustion. arms caught her before she hit the ground. I have you. Alaric's voice raw with emotion. I have you. It's over. Is it? She whispered. He pulled her against his chest, and for the first time since her mother's death, Kira let herself be held. Yes, he promised. No one will ever hunt you again. 6 months later, the Northern Dominion gathered once more. But this time, the occasion wasn't war. It was celebration. Kira stood in the grand hall of Ironhaven Citadel, dressed in a gown of white silk that shimmered like moonlight on snow. Her pale hair was woven with silver threads, and atop her head sat a crown of woven moonstones, the ancient symbol of the lunar primes, crafted anew. The hall was filled to capacity. Representatives from every pack on the continent had come to witness history. Alaric stood beside her on the dais, resplendent in black and gold. Their relationship had evolved over the past months, slowly, carefully. What had begun as a promise to a dead woman had transformed into something neither of them expected. The Elder Council had blessed their union, recognizing that the goddess herself had woven their fates together. What had started as confusion had become understanding. What had become understanding had grown into love. Ready? He murmured. Always. Elder Corvinus, humbled and cooperative since the trial, stepped forward to address the crowd. Today, we witness the restoration of an ancient line and the beginning of a new era. Kira Velan, last of the lunar primes, has proven herself in combat, in wisdom, and in grace. By the laws of our ancestors, by the blessing of the moon goddess, I present to you. He gestured toward the throne. Queen Kira of the Northern Dominion, the White Wolf, protector of all packs. The crowd erupted. Kira took her place on the throne beside Alaric. Her eyes swept the hall, the dignitaries bowing, the wolves howling their allegiance, the flags bearing her new crest. In the corner, wearing the gray uniform of a citadel servant, stood Rowena Ashford. Her punishment for the assassination attempt had been fitting. 10 years of service to the crown she had tried to destroy. She kept her eyes downcast as she refilled wine goblets, her once proud posture bent with humiliation. Kira caught her gaze, held it. Rowena flinched and looked away. Near the back of the hall, a lone figure watched from the shadows. Kaelin Hargrave, stripped of his alpha title, now a rogue wandering the borderlands. He had requested permission to attend, to see, one final time, the woman he had thrown away. Kira met his eyes across the crowded hall. He bowed his head. A true bow. An acknowledgement. An acceptance. Then he turned and disappeared into the night. Alaric took her hand, intertwining their fingers. The bond between them hummed with warmth and promise. Any regrets? He asked. Kira thought of the girl she had been, scrubbing floors, hiding her wolf, praying to be invisible. She thought of the woman she had become, crowned, powerful, loved. Not one. The white wolf had risen, and the entire kingdom knelt before her. If you loved this story and want more tales of rejected mates rising to power, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Thanks for listening.